Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. I am super excited today, guys, because the new champion roadmap has been released. Unfortunately, I'm also a little upset with the new champion roadmap, but let's go ahead and just hop right into things and talk a little bit more about Riot's upcoming plans and releases for their champions. Now, first up, Riot are giving us a new teaser of the next champion to be released, the Jungle Skirmisher that we heard about towards the beginning of the year. Now, if you guys don't remember that video, I talk a little bit about how this champion is likely a Void Broodmother type character who's going to be able to spawn lots of little Gribblies to tear their opponents apart, and it does seem like this is the direction Riot are taking with this character. However, there are a lot of details in this paragraph that make me very, very concerned for the direction of this character. Namely, Riot consistently refer to this new character as an Empress and as beautiful. And this is scary, because ostensibly this could be Riot taking sort of a Lovecraftian turn of a phrase and say, a horrendous abomination is beautiful, right? Potentially that could be what they're doing. However, Riot has had a very bad track record with actually making monster champions and with actually making champions that live up to their thematic promise. Kai'Sa, another Void champion, is a huge example of this, right? Kai'Sa's theme was so rich and had so many possibilities, and Riot settled for woman in a skin-tight bodysuit. And I am absolutely terrified that they're going to do the same thing with this Void champion and basically make her into a Kerrigan-esque character, for those of you who are familiar with StarCraft, and basically say this is an attractive woman in a bodysuit as the Void Empress. Empress also implies that this is potentially like the big bad from the Void. Riot have really gotten in the habit recently of releasing the big bads for each faction. We got Viego from the Shadow Isles, we got Renata Glask, who's said to be the primary antagonist of Zaun, and now potentially we could be getting the sort of harbinger of the Void, the one in charge of it all. And if it's a woman in a bodysuit, I am going to be absolutely livid with Riot. So I'm really hoping it's still going to be a big scary monster. We have a bit of the splash art here, but I'm really not sure that's actually going to be indicative of the character. There's a lot that could be. So either way, I am not looking forward to this reveal unless it's another big scary monster like Rek'Sai. But either way, there are a couple of smaller details here we can look at as well. They mention crashing like waves against enemies' defensive structures, implying that this character has some degree of ability to damage enemy structures, which is going to be quite nice. They also mention part of a new evolution of Runeterra, meaning this character may be an evolution type character like Kha'Zix or Kai'Sa before her. So there's some potential interesting things going on here with this character and with a sort of skirmisher, again, another jungle skirmisher, sort of like Lilia. So I'm excited, but also the character design is what's gonna make or break this character for me, and I'm really hoping that Riot don't mess this one up. Moving on to our next champion. Now, we basically had no knowledge of that champion before. All we got was a little, like, teaser icon in the previous champion roadmap, but now we actually have a little bit more information. And I don't really know what to make of this story that's being told here, in all honesty, you guys. I do get the sense that this character is going to be sort of an Aquamancer, right? Having some degree of interaction with water or water-themed abilities. They do mention that there's mist that fills the restaurant in this small story that's told, so potentially this character has a way of entering stealth or being otherwise unable to be attacked. But the biggest thing I want to talk about here is this image that's very prominently displayed at the end, and especially the image that is displayed on the backside of the bar, which is this big sort of oyster-looking character. Now, obviously, we don't necessarily know, and I would be very surprised if Riot revealed the champion in some way, shape, or form before their actual announcement, but I do wonder if that sort of oyster-like or dolphin-like looking character in the background is our guy. Potentially, right, an oyster-themed character could be a water-themed character that's able to create mist with their Aquamancer powers, right? There's a lot of things that theoretically this character could be. There is a bunch of theories going around right now talking about this character potentially being a member of the Vestaya Shirei. There is some connection to Nico, comparing Shoma to oysters before, and this story is full of oysters, so potentially there's a connection there. They also say that this character is from a land across the seas, which could imply like another continent that we've never seen before in Runeterra, but also could imply the homeland of the Vestaya Shirei, or Ionia, which has a lot of Vestaya. So it's sort of curious to me what this character is actually going to end up being, but I'm excited to see what it's going to be regardless, and I would pay very close attention to anything going forward, especially if it's very sea life themed, because that's likely another hint at our newer character. Right, talk a little bit about Udyr here. There's basically nothing to recap. Udyr is still in development. They're spending most of their time on Spirit Guard, and Spirit Guard will be keeping the original stances that Udyr had, his Tiger, Bear, Turtle, Phoenix, so that's kind of fun there. I do like that thought process for his ultimate skin. But let's go ahead and talk about Aurelion Sol, as he is showing up in a champion roadmap for the first time since his release. Now, Riot are talking about Aurelion Sol in regards to a comprehensive gameplay update, or CGU. And I want to talk about two things with regards to this. The first is that Riot would not have come up with a term for what they're going to do to Aurelion Sol if they didn't intend to do it to other characters or already had ideas for other characters to do it too. They do say here, if you're happy with the results, we may take a look at other champions that fall into these categories, which means that they are going to see how this goes before committing to doing more, but it definitely means that there are other characters that they think need a comprehensive gameplay update. I'm a little scared about this because I'm not a fan of what they're doing to Aurelion Sol, but I think the idea of this update isn't necessarily a bad idea. It does trespass a little bit in terms of the mid-scope updates that have been happening recently, but I like the thought of saying, all of this Champions kit is bad, let's take them back to the drawing board and do more with them. I think Rengar, for example, or LeBlanc could benefit from a CGU, but maybe that's besides the point, maybe that's just me. Let's talk about specifically Aurelion Sol. Now, Riot are basically saying, if you haven't already gathered from Comprehensive Gameplay Update, that Aurelion Sol's kit, they don't like it at all, and they're going to throw it out and give him something that is generally more emphasizing of his dragon fantasy. Now, I am of two minds about this, generally leaning towards I dislike it. The reason is because I think that while, yes, Aurelion Sol doesn't quite live up to the expectation that you have when you pick the character, I think that that's sort of the point. Riot have a history of taking various tropes and sort of turning them on their head and doing something creative with the character design that you wouldn't have expected. I think a big example of this is Nami, where people are saying, oh, a mermaid character, and then Nami is more fish than actual mermaid. I thought that was a really cool inversion and something that we weren't expecting them to do, but that they ended up doing regardless. And I think that Aurelion Sol, you see this big scary dragon that's going to do lots of big scary dragon things, and then he walks around smacking you with stars while generally, like, not engaging with you, which I think, honestly, matches the character more than if he was to be a generic dragon, because Aurelion Sol, then, is basically saying, you're not worth my time. I'm going to kill you with the random stuff that's orbiting me, and, you know, that's all I'm going to do because that's how little I respect you. I think that's way more thematically appropriate than actually letting him do dragon things, because then it's just saying, oh, okay, cool, this character is actually trying, right? Which I don't know. I don't know that I like it, especially when I consider how mechanically unique Aurelion Sol's kit is amongst the entire League of Legends roster. There's so many things Aurelion Sol does that are really, really only he does, and I love that. And for Riot to basically say, nope, that's going to be gone, we're going to give him a generic champion kit, I think that's just a mistake. Unless Riot find a way to repurpose Aurelion Sol's current gameplay in a new champion, I think that overall this is going to be a dramatic loss for the League of Legends community and for the mechanical depth that the game actually holds. So, but you guys will have to let me know what you think of this down in the comment section below. I know some people would be really excited to play Aurelion Sol if he felt more like a dragon, so if you guys like this, let me know. You know, let me know that I'm wrong down in the comments. Moving on to Skarner, and this is sort of the last thing that I'm very anxious about with regards to Riot's announcements and champions. Now, Riot talk a little bit about Skarner's visual appearance in this article, talking about how the first two rows are of designs that they have. I will have a link to this article in the description, guys, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will have that down there. But they basically say the first two rows are attempts to keep Skarner's theme pretty much the same, while making him more unique on the League of Legends roster by adding other fantastical elements rather than just a traditional Scorpion body structure. I don't know why they feel the need to do this, given that Skarner is a crystal Scorpion, not just a regular Scorpion, and there's a lot of things you can do with a crystal Scorpion concept that don't involve adding more stuff to his body, but I'm not necessarily upset with this. Sure, fine, whatever. You're going to make him more of a fantasy crystal Scorpion, as if crystal Scorpion wasn't fantasy enough. Sure. I dig it, and it keeps Skarner's backstory the same. The third row, Riot talk about changing the Brackern into ancient protectors of an old Shurima civilization that are constructs built from crystals housing thousands of elite warrior souls. Now, this, I think, is an interesting concept, but not the greatest for reasons I'll get into here in a bit. And the last row is an exploration of Skarner where his current lore is continued, where he's captured by Piltover and experimented on to create a Hextech Guardian they can control, but he regains his memories, escapes Piltover, and becomes hellbent on destroying the city for what they did to him and his people. This is the worst possible outcome for Skarner as a character. This last row here. That would be the worst possible thing Riot could do with the character, because it shows that they do not understand what they have right now with Skarner. I've talked about this at length before in other videos, but the presence of Skarner and the presence of how the Brackern interact with Hextech and the essentially the reason why Hextech exists in the first place, which is built on the backs of a sentient race's genocide, basically, is such an interesting concept that has so many questions that I can throw into the face of basically every single Piltover and Zon champion in the game, to be able to say, hey, by the way, we're going to reveal to you what the truth of Hextech is. How does this make you feel? Echo has a Hextech-powered device. Jason Victor helped create Hextech. Caitlyn has a Hextech-powered device. Camille is more Hextech than human at this point. Vi has a Hextech-powered device. There are so many of these characters that will suddenly have to ask themselves some really hard questions about what Hextech is and what their stance is on it, with Skarner's reveal, potentially, if he shows up in Piltover and Zon and says, hey, guess what? And for Riot to try and say, we're going to ignore that, as with the sort of ancient warrior souls iteration of Skarner that they were talking about, would just be to completely ignore that entire plot point and just try to hand wave it away and say, no, 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 we didn't imply that there was genocide and that Seraphine was cool with it, right? Like, is that the reason behind this? I don't know, but I would hate it if they did that, and I would hate it if Riot said, hey, look, we have a monster champion, and we're going to make him do monstrous things, as in the last iteration where he becomes captured by Piltover and Zon but breaks free. That would be horrendous for Skarner's character. Skarner is monstrous looking, but he is not a monster, and I think that's something that Riot keeps losing sight of when they see a scary looking character and say, well, we can't make this character relatable in any way, shape, or form. They have to be a monster. No! Do not do this. Make sure these characters are able to continue to have a personality and a drive, and are characters, are sentient creatures. Skarner is not a monster. Skarner will not fight you just because you showed up. If you are able to comprehend him and understand him, I'm sure you would be able to talk to Skarner, and that's the important thing that I think Riot keep missing with these explorations, and I'm really hoping that someone from Riot watches this video and that everyone else is able to sort of express to them, do not do this to Skarner, keep him where he is, and force your characters in Piltover and Zon to have to take a hard look at where their technology comes from. But either way, that's going to be my rant, guys. There is a very small thing here towards the end where they talk a little bit about a new high-skill top-lane tank champion who's going to be coming from Shurima, which I think I'm excited for, about a new top-lane champion, but we really have no information about them besides that, so that's that. So either way, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Let me know what you think of any of this down in the comment section below. I'm especially excited to hear your guys' thoughts on the CGU of Aurelion Sol and the Skarner Explorations. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on all that down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.